Okay, so in this video, rather than outputting the result of this function into a pop-up for the user to see, we want to put it on the page. So I'm going to remove this alert line because that's what's giving us the pop-up. And I'm going to replace it with something that edits the HTML, edits what's inside this paragraph tag here. So how can I do that? The first thing I need to do is I need to get hold of my paragraph. So we're going to be going back and using our jQuery selector again. So that $ bracket single quotes that we saw earlier. Now, in the examples earlier, we saw one where we used the hash to denote going and getting an ID, and one where we used just a normal element selector. Now, as there is only one paragraph on a page, I'm selecting all P's because there is only one for us. If there were multiple paragraphs on the page and I wanted it to be specific, I would give it an ID. So how can I change what's inside that paragraph? Well, I can use another jQuery function called .html. So up here we have used .value, and that can be used to either get the value out of an input field or to set the value of some HTML. And we also, HTML, this function down here, that is another jQuery function which allows us to set the inner HTML of any element we have got hold of. So for me, inside that paragraph, I'm going to set the HTML equal to my variable result that we saw pop up in the alert box. So if I run my code by clicking in the top left, and I put in two numbers, when I click calculate, I'm hoping I will see 90 in the paragraph above this button. And we do. Excellent. So now we have almost all of the logic that we want to cover in the code along portion of this video. The next part we need to cover, and the critical part we need to cover if you want to do the challenge to validate some of the learning that we've done together, is conditional logic. And the bit that we're going to do together, we're going to say, well, you can never account for how the user will interact with something that you've built. So for example, at the moment, we're making a heavy presumption that all users accessing our most original calculator are going to be inputting numbers into here. But what if they don't? What if they input a mess of a string? In our logic, it says, add this mess of a string to the number 12. And when we click calculate, it's suddenly broken our user interface. It's broken the front end for our application. And that's because we're not handling the error. We're not handling an unexpected user input. So the next part we're going to do in the following video will be to say, if the user does not put the correct type of input, i.e. a number, into one of these input fields, give them some user feedback that says they have given an invalid input.